The Garden of the Gods is what they call the beautiful mountain range that Nichol Kessinger took Chris Watts right before he murdered his pregnant wife and his 2 young daughters. So let's get in to the Native American curse that is put on that land and get into if this case has anything to do with secret societies, or is it something else? Is it a poltergeist? Is it an ancient Native American accursed land? Let's find out, shall we? Let's get into it. The curse of the Grand Valley has been a tale told for years around the area. Legend has it the Ute tribe cursed the land after European settlers kicked the natives off the land. Some stories mention the Utes believing the valley was already cursed and filled with ghosts. The way to ward it off is to collect dirt from valley locations, so once you leave, you don't come back. I just want to note that parts of Colorado, especially where the sand dunes are and where the mountain ranges all are, where Nichol Kessinger took Chris Watts, it is sitting on a layer of crystal. So they call it the Crystal Valley, which is crazy because they also call it a vortex because it has magnetic properties. And I think it's a literal portal to the other realm, whether it be to inner earth or to Eden. Something in my spirit, I've been having dreams about this place for 2 years now. I want to say 2 years. I want to say since this case happened and I've looked into this area, I've been having dreams about it. And I believe that at one point, America, I'm a believer in some sort of Pangea, either whether it be when the flood happened and the floodwaters separated the land, and then I think there was an earthquake after that that broke apart the continents, and that's when the Atlantic Ocean was formed. So I think that Colorado is a part of Holy Land. I think it's the promised land. I had a dream. I had a dream that I was standing at the base of Mount Zion, which is a mountain in Utah, but everything is close together there. And there was tents everywhere, silk purple tents with gold trim. And then I haven't been able to stop researching this place since. It is being hidden from us, the history of it. But anyway, let's get into the Utes curse. In Arapaho legend, the Heskataheli, sometimes Hontachahi, and possibly other spellings, are cannibal dwarves and dangerous man-eaters, making them particular enemies of the Arapaho tribe. The first syllable rhymes with yeah, so yay chasatahi. Descriptions of the cannibal dwarfs vary, but they are usually said to be the size of children, dark-skinned, and extremely aggressive. Some storytellers say that they had the power to turn themselves invisible, while others say they were hard to spot simply because they moved with incredible speed. Some suggest that the dwarf's warlike temperament comes because they must be killed in battle to reach the dwarf afterworld. And others believe that they were gluttons who habitually killed more than they could eat just because they could. According to most versions of the story, the race of cannibal dwarfs were mostly destroyed in an ancient war with the Arapahos and other allied Native American tribes. And ever since having this dream, I been researching it, and all my research is leading back to America once being a part of the West, and that Colorado has so many UFO sightings and has, the Yeti Skinwalker Ranch and all these ancient mythos, which are really factos, because it is a holy site. It's, I think it's the land of Canaan, because every time I hear Grand Canyon, I think of the land of Canaan, the land of milk and honey, right? And I know that there's been said to be portals to under earth in the Grand Canyon. If you can traverse that vertical wall, there are hidden tunnels that lead to the inner earth, right? Where the Sethites were. And then you have possibly a portal to Eden, the Garden of Eden. I don't know, guys. Comment your thoughts below on all of this. Colorado is not only breathtakingly beautiful, but it has so much paranormal activity going on between UFO sightings, like I said, from everything to gnomes, fairies, and it was said that the gnomes and the Fae people were the guardians of the gates, or the guardians of the knowledge. I think it's the guardians of the knowledge and gates, possibly. So comment your thoughts below so far on this.
As a result, the angels descend from heaven, terrifying the 200 demons, who take human form and hide among human beings. The angels separate out the human beings and set a watch over them. They seize the giants from the demons and lead them, the children of the giants, to safety in 32 distant towns prepared for them by the living spirit at Aryan Weezin, the traditional homeland of the Indo-Iranians, in the vicinity of the sacred Mount Sumeru and other mountains. These people originated the arts and crafts. The 200 demons fight a massive and fiery battle with the 4 angels. M24, a Tanbush does battle, accompanied by watchers and giants, and 3 of the giants are killed. An angel and others are also killed. Oyach and Ayach resolve to keep their promise to do battle, and they boast of their prowess. 4 angels, by divine command, bind the egregore with everlasting chains in a dark prison, and annihilate their children. Even before the rebellion of the egregore, this prison had been built for them under the mountains. In addition, 36 towns had been prepared for the habitation of the wicked and long-lived sons of the giants before they were even born. Oyach, or Aya, the primordial monster Leviathan, and the archangel Raphael engage in a great battle, and they vanished, according to one tradition. Oya survived the flood and fought this battle after it. 3,280 years passed between the time of Enoch and the time of King Vishtasp, who ruled at the time of the prophet Zoroaster.
That was an excerpt from the Book of the Giants, or the Book of the Ogres, which confirms also in, I think it's the books of Adam and Eve, that Zoroaster is our descendant, guys. And the enemy, the dragon, the serpent, the screech owl in the Garden of Eden takes many forms. So you have the serpent, which represents the blood of the earth, aka oil. And then you have the screech owl, which is the ancient female, feminine divine, Lilitu, who turned into, Lilitu was the wise owl. Did you ever hear the phrase wise as an owl, or the ancient dragon, the wise serpent, the dragon of old? So you have Lilitu, who has spiritual children as well as hybrid children, as you just heard, the fallen angels. and from what it's been said, is Chris Watts on his mother's side is half Native Indian. The natives have the same oral tradition, only in a different language. Then we have where they went, Nikki and Chris Watts, to the Great Sand Dunes, which is part of Crestone, which is founded by one of the 13 elite bloodlines, the Rockefellers, whom had a screech owl, and screech owls are interesting animals as they have very human-like faces, or rather very gray alien-like faces. Gray aliens, in my opinion, are some kind of demon suit for these ancient deities that were actually living prior to Pangea during Atlantis. I had a revelation that Atlantis had an upper building that you could see from the tar seas, and the angels that fell, the egregori, the Elohim, right? Elohim is the name for God, or also it could be a name of what the fallen angels called themselves. And the egregori is a play on words. That is the group of fallen angels. So you have, they're bound in Tartarus, which has to do with black goo. If you haven't watched my video on black goo on the blood of the earth, there's a native Indian prophecy. Go check that video out. But as you can see, Crestone is founded by the strong and the Rockefeller family, or dynasty, I should say. I believe there to be portals there. Not to mention, the Vatican has a telescope not far from this area called Lucifer. And then you have the main building. You can see here the Thunderbird Lodge is a wing. That's one of the wings for the Phoenix Rising. Phoenix Rising represents the screech owl, and there's the screech owl that came out of the Christmas tree this year from the Rockefeller Center that fund Crestone. So you see how it has an alien or a gray alien-like face, the screech owl? And then we have the Bushes, our two ex-presidents, George W. and George Jr. Bush. How do they make all their money, guys? Through oil. The connection to that is Chris Watts worked for Anadarko Petroleum and disposed of his two very young daughters in two separate oil batteries, and dumped his wife's body in a shallow grave, his pregnant wife Shannan Watts, in the sandy dunes of CERVI 319, the oil battery for Anadarko, to where he worked. Then we have American Horror Story coming out with the Lady of the Dunes and the Body of the Dunes, which all of the imagery from the Watts murder case is on the dunes. There's the doppelganger on the dunes. Then Rory Kissinger is the name of one of the ladies of the dunes for the American Horror Story new season. So the screech owl represents the feathered serpent. The feathered serpent. What would be a feathered serpent? It would be a combination. Okay, so I guess the dragon was some form of an owl slash dragon, maybe a fire-breathing owl. Oh, look at, there's Macaulay Culkin doing his Master Mason or Hidden Hand. And then when Adam and Eve fell, the feathered or plumed serpent is the screech owl that when the flood came, it says that Oya survived the flood, right? Oya is Lilitu, or a harpy. The female divine of the enemy took to the water and became a harpy, which is a mermaid. These are the bloodlines. And the crazy part is that Bundy is one of the 13 bloodlines. The elite of the elite, the richest, most powerful bloodline. And who do we have that tore through the same area where the Watts murders took place, very near it, as one of the first serial killers ever? Ted Bundy? Oh, that's right. Ted Bundy, right? Wasn't he going to school in Utah? And he would drive through Washington State, which is all right near Colorado. We have many secret societies. But like I've said before, if you watch our videos, whatever the Most High does, the enemy copies. He's a swagger jacker. So the Most High had the order of the Knights Templar who guarded the temple at night, where all of the holy artifacts from Adam and Eve that were handed down through the bloodlines, such as pieces of Eden, the staff, the lamb's wool garment that God made for Adam and Eve when they realized that they were naked. And why God called out to them was because when they ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, where the serpent and the screech owl dwelt, they went through a portal like being born. They were separated from God. They used to be able to walk with God. They had a shining, bright nature. They were innocent. But then they lost their innocence after eating of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. So I say all that to say that characters such as Aleister Crowley, who are ripping open portals. Aleister Crowley is like the Solomon of our generation, guys. King Solomon was born of a succubus. If you ever look up the story of King David and bathing Sheba, she was doing a midnight moon sex magic ritual to conceive Solar Man, who fell away from God. Oh, and by the way, when Aleister Crowley went into Egypt when he got married to do that big ritual to summon, is it Samaya? He summoned a demon called Lamb, aka Iwas, aka the dragon. So Aleister Crowley was ripping portals open. He went to Egypt and ripped a portal open in the Pyramid of Giza. And then he went over to Loch Ness and he ripped a portal open at the, is it the Abbey of Thelema? Or the Boleskine House? He ripped a portal open there, hence releasing the Loch Ness Monster. Ayahuasca is very similar to that plant-based drug that they used to. It was a plant-based tea that they still make, orally handed down, generation to generation. The native Indians, who are the lost tribe, and they call it ayahuasca. And this demon's name is Ayahuas, which means the way. But it, again, mimicking the Most High God, who is the way, the truth, and the light. And Ayahuas looks like a freaking gray alien. So the oil legacy of George H.W. Bush, who bought land in Paraguay, where the biggest deposit of black goo is coming up out of the street, which they call La Mancha Negra, where thousands of people have lost their lives, lost limbs, gotten sick from just getting a little bit of this sentient, intelligent goo, which is the blood of the earth. The earth was cursed when Cain slew Abel, and the earth sucked up the blood of Abel. Tartarus is the blood of the earth. And Atlantis' other name is actually, I kept calling it Tartarus, and my son was getting mad at me. But it's actually called that. The Tartarian mudslides, or Saul of Tarsus, who is Paul the Apostle. Right? If Saul of Tarsus must have been a place then, right? And what I think it is, I think it was near, Atlantis was near the Solomon Islands, and that's where it broke apart. And this black intelligent substance was coming up out of the oceans. And they were using it to reanimate and body hop. The beast rose out of the sea.